I transmigrated into a female-oriented world and became the great general in control of military and political power. The turbulent court was stabilized by me. The domestic rebellions were quelled by me leading the troops. The large-scale Xinbei invasion from the north was defeated by me leading the army. Empress Jirian listened to the slanders of her male favorite Ji Boxiao, ordering me to hand over my military power and resign from all my positions. Gu Shao, as long as you hand over your military power, I promise to take you as my imperial consort. But I am a normal great general, not the Empress's love-struck simp in the original story. More importantly, my subordinates are also eager to advance. It's cold. Let's get the great general another coat. Ah, you are really ruining me. The north wind was like a knife, whipping the blood-red flags atop the border city walls. Standing on the wall, I looked down at the mountains of Xinbei corpses outside the city, my nostrils filled with the thick smell of blood. 10 days ago, the Xinbei army of 200,000 men pressed on the border, clamoring to flatten the border and take the Central Plains. 10 days later, the Xinbei army of 200,000 men was defeated by me and my army, and even their commander was speared off his horse and hung at the city gate. Except for a small number of Xinbei remnants who fled north in terror back to the grasslands, their main force was almost annihilated. For at least 10 years, there would be no possibility of them invading my great Xia dynasty from the south. Great General, Deputy General Zhou, who strode onto the city wall. His face was full of joy as he grinned and said, "The good news has already been sent 800 li with urgent speed, and the imperial court's rewards are estimated to arrive by the end of the month. The brothers are all guessing what title His Majesty will bestow upon you this time." I didn't speak, just looked towards the vast northern horizon. My thoughts drifted away. I transmigrated here yesterday. When I woke up, I found myself lying in the commander's tent with the contents of a book in my head. The Empress and her 37 male concubines. That's right. I transmigrated into a bloody and crazy female-oriented novel and became the biggest victim inside. In the original plot, I, the great general who controlled military and political power, was Ji Ruyan's childhood sweetheart and was even granted a marriage edict by the late emperor. I was infatuated with the beautiful and capricious Ji Ruyan, giving everything for her, even my life. However, the original owner, this versatile great general, who is clearly the most prestigious official in the entire Great Xia dynasty, was set by the dog author to be a love-struck simp. He toiled for the arrogant and capricious Ji Ruyan for 10 years, only to be betrayed and killed by her and her male favorite. How much of a simp was the original owner? The turbulent court was stabilized single-handedly by him. The domestic rebellion was quelled by him leading the troops. The Xinbei invasion was also defeated by him leading the army. In the past 10 years, the original owner risked his life, guarding this country for Ji Ruyan. And what about Empress Ji Ruyan? She ignored state affairs, relying on the original owner's love for her, acting willfully and lawlessly. She even kept male concubines in the palace, replacing them more frequently than clothes. Every time the original owner returned to the capital after a battle, he would see those male concubines acting coquettishly and being ingratiating beside the empress. His heart would bleed, but he still had to respectfully call her Your Majesty on the surface. Even when he was humiliated like this, with his dignity trampled upon and made to wear the green hat, Empress Ji Ruyan would dangle him. Gu Shao, achieve another merit, and I will fulfill the late emperor's marriage edict and consider taking you as my imperial consort. The original owner, that love-struck great general, as if under a spell, actually believed her and continued to work for the empress. Until the plot reached the end. Ji Ruyan listened to the Xinbei spies. The male favorites' slander seized his military power and then sidelined him in the court. In the end, a cup of poison wine was used to kill him. The original owner was still shouting until his death, Your Majesty, I am innocent. When I finished reading this plot, I was so angry that I cursed the dog author to death. Without 10 years of cerebral thrombosis, who the hell could write such a bloody and outrageous plot? The great general who controlled military and political power of the dignified Great Xiad dynasty actually died in such an aggrieved and useless way? Love-struck people really have no good ending, and Simps end up with nothing in the end. These words are not a lie. Fortunately, when I transmigrated in, the plot had just progressed to the defeating the Xianbei invasion part. The original owner, with his powerful martial arts, was indeed impressive, destroying the main force of the Xianbei with 400,000 troops, ensuring that there would be no more war on the border for 10 years. The battle is already over. Then let me, the transmigrator, bring a little bit of shock to this world. General, Zhou was a little flustered seeing I wasn't speaking. Are you all right? Are you injured? I snapped back to reality and smiled. I'm fine, just wondering when the Imperial Court's rewards will arrive. Zhou grinned. They'll be here soon for sure. We crushed the Xianbei's 200,000-strong army this time, killing over 100,000, capturing 50,000, and seizing countless cattle and sheep. This is a monumental achievement. At the very least, His Majesty should ennoble you as a duke, maybe even a king. I glanced at him upon hearing that, and nodded without replying. Ennobled as a duke? Maybe even a king. According to the original plot, what awaits isn't a noble title, but a seizure of power, humiliation, and a dead end. But I didn't say anything, just patted Zhou's shoulder. Let the brothers rest well, eat and drink as they please. Got it. Zhou ran off joyfully. Watching his retreating back, my gaze gradually turned cold. Now that I've transmigrated into this novel, I'll do things my way. A dignified general with a love-struck brain doesn't exist. The Empress's lapdog? Whoever wants to be can be. I am, however, a normal general. I'll let this Empress with a screw loose know what it means to lose a lapdog but provoke a fierce tiger. Half a month later, the Imperial Court's envoy arrived. Not just one person, but a whole caravan. Leading the way was a pale, beardless eunuch, sitting in a carriage, his chin raised higher than the city walls. I led the generals out of the city to welcome them. The caravan arrived outside the city gate. The decree-announcing eunuch, seeing me, the powerful general, didn't get out of the carriage. He glanced down at me condescendingly and smiled strangely. General Gu, receive the decree. Although I knew the plot, I didn't suddenly burst out and kill him, considering the upcoming plan. After all, I hadn't been transmigrated here for long and didn't know what this 400,000-strong border army was thinking. Considering how much the original owner simped for Ji Ruyan, caution was best. I feigned a single knee kneel, and behind me, a dark mass of soldiers knelt. The eunuch unfurled the imperial decree, pinching his throat to read, "By the decree of heaven-appointed emperor, it is hereby proclaimed. General Gu Shao has guarded the border for 10 years and has worked hard with great merit. However, recently, officials have impeached him, saying he wields excessive military power and harbors rebellious intentions. After careful consideration, to ensure the general's innocence, he is ordered to hand over his military authority immediately, escort himself back to the capital, and await judgment. All military affairs are to be temporarily managed by the deputy general. Respect this." After the decree was read, there was a deathly silence. Deputy General Zhou, who suddenly raised his head, his eyes wide like copper bells. What? What is this? The general has rebellious intentions? Hand over military power? Escort himself back to the capital? We just crushed the Xianbei's 200,000-strong army, killing and capturing over 150,000, and this is what we get. The eunuch forced a smile. What? Deputy General Zhou, do you have objections to His Majesty's decree? Zhou stood up abruptly, his fists clenched, crackling. Of course I have objections. The general led us in bloody battles, and you were all indulging in pleasure in the capital. Now that we've won a victory, not only are we not rewarded, but they want to seize power, even slander the general with rebellious intentions? What kind of logic is this? I observed the movements of the generals throughout, but didn't speak. This was a good opportunity to understand the background of the border army's generals. This deputy general is pretty good. Impudent, the eunuch shrieked sharply. How dare you, a lowly soldier, question his majesty? Guards, slap him for me. Just as a few guards were about to move, I raised my hand to stop them. Calm down, eunuch. I stood up, neither arrogant nor humble. Deputy General Zhou is just momentarily agitated and has no intention of offending. The eunuch snorted coldly, looking at me sidelong. General Gu, you are an understanding person. His Majesty has another word for me to tell you alone. He leaned in a few steps, lowered his voice, and smiled meaningfully. His Majesty's oral decree is that as long as you obediently hand over military power and follow us back to the capital, she will take you as a royal husband. I was stunned upon hearing that. This damned eunuch thought I was moved. He continued to put on airs. How is it? This is a great favor. Think about it. A royal husband, this is what you've dreamed of. I couldn't help but suddenly laugh. The eunuch was baffled by my laughter. What are you laughing at? I ignored him and turned to look at the soldiers behind me. In the Central Army camp, a large crowd was kneeling, their faces full of anger and confusion. They had waited for half a month, only to receive not a reward, not praise, but an absurd imperial decree. Brothers, I suddenly drew my sword, then roared loudly. Your merits, no one dares to bury. Your rewards, this general will definitely fight to get them for you. The messenger quickly relayed my words. It was passed down the line, and everyone heard what I said. We trust General. We trust General. Cheers rose and fell in the field. The eunuch panicked a bit, taking a step back. Gu Shao, what do you want? Disobeying the imperial decree. I turned my head back, my smile disappearing. My eyes met his coldly. The soldiers have been eagerly awaiting rewards for half a month, only to receive an edict like this. Do you think it will quell their anger? Eunuch, you've had a long journey. Go into the city and rest first. We'll discuss the edict tomorrow. The eunuch's expression changed. What do you mean? The edict can be discussed tomorrow? Gu Shao, are you rebelling? If I hadn't been uncertain about the soldier's loyalty, I would have had this dead eunuch beheaded long ago. 4. What the hell? A lackey who relies on the Empress's power dares to question me. The great general with 400,000 troops. I just stared at him, my gaze as calm as a deep pool, as if looking at a dead man. The dead eunuch trembled and took 2 steps back, feeling a chill run down his spine. He gritted his teeth and irritably flicked his sleeve. Fine, tomorrow it is. This old one will see what waves you can make. After speaking, he led his people into the city arrogantly. Zhou Hu rushed to my side in a few steps, his eyes red. General, what kind of bullshit decree is this? We fought to the death, only to end up like this? Are you still going to endure it? I watched the eunuch's departing figure and said lightly, what else can I do but endure it? Resist the decree. Then resist. Zhou Hu roared, brothers, what do you say? The messenger quickly relayed the words down the line with anger. Yes. All the soldiers on the scene roared in unison, their voices shaking the sky. I scanned them, especially the commanders. It seems that in addition to being a love-struck fool and a brain-dead character created by the author, the original owner was skilled in both literary and martial arts, and had extremely high prestige in the army. In the original story, he ate and slept with the soldiers and always fought for the most rewards for his subordinates. Now it seems that these border soldiers are very supportive of the original owner. I raise my hand and lower my voice. Don't rush. A faint smile appeared on the corner of my mouth. Let's see what else they want to do. That night, the imperial envoy eunuch sent someone to find me. It was his trusted little eunuch, who entered my tent with a bow and a scrape. This little eunuch looked around, lowered his voice, and said, General, our master said that this matter is not entirely unnegotiable. He gave a sly look around, as if he was doing something illegal. Think about it. Why did His Majesty suddenly issue this decree? Isn't it because someone is speaking ill of you behind your back? Then he rubbed his fingers together. As long as you give a little, something, the master will say a few good words for you in front of His Majesty. and this matter might just be over. I leaned back in my chair, watching his clown performance. Then I picked up the teacup and slowly blew the tea leaves. Oh, that. Something is how much? The little eunuch's eyes lit up, and he held up 3 fingers. 50,000 taels. I laughed after hearing that. 50,000 taels? The border soldier's monthly salary is only 2 taels of silver. 50,000 taels. That's enough for 25,000 soldiers to eat for a whole month. The dead eunuch wants to take it away with just a few words. 50,000 taels. I put down the teacup and said jokingly, too little. The little eunuch was stunned, then overjoyed. The general is indeed a wise man. Then what number do you say? I looked at him, smiling harmlessly. Go back and tell your master that I have prepared a big gift for him. I'll personally deliver it to him tomorrow. The little eunuch left gleefully. As the tent flap fell, Zhou rushed out from behind, his face purple with anger. General, that castrated dog dares to extort you? I'll go kill him right now. He picked up a big knife and was about to rush out angrily. Stop. I picked up the teacup and took a sip leisurely. What's the rush? But, I said, prepare a big gift for him. I raised my eyes, my gaze deep and dark. What I say, I do. Zhou was stunned, then suddenly understood something and grinned. Early the next morning, the imperial eunuch and his entourage swaggered, preparing to return to the capital. The little eunuch had brought back word the night before, and he hadn't slept a wink, eagerly awaiting the money he would receive today. But after waiting all morning, there wasn't a peep from my side. He couldn't sit still any longer and personally came to find me. The moment the damned eunuch arrived at the camp gate, he was stopped. The one who stopped him was a deputy general named Li, nicknamed Li the Blockhead, a man who feared neither heaven nor earth. Halt! Who goes there? The imperial eunuch's eyebrows shot up. Are you blind, you dog? Don't you recognize this one? Get out of my way. Li the Blockhead crossed his arms and stood his ground. The great general has ordered that no one is allowed to enter or leave the military camp without permission. Want to leave? Get the great general's written order. The eunuch trembled with anger. Good. You good-for-nothing soldier. This one is an angel, an imperial messenger sent to deliver an edict. How dare you stop me? Li the Blockhead picked at his ear. Angel? Never heard of one. All I know is the great general's written order. The imperial eunuch then realized that he was under house arrest. His face was ashen as he pointed at Li the Blockhead's nose and cursed him for a full incense stick's worth of time. Everything he could think of to say, lowly, vulgar, peasant, deserving to be a soldier your whole life, he spewed out. Li the Blockhead just listened, not getting angry. When a eunuch was tired of cursing, he shamelessly grinned. Eunuch, are you done cursing? If you're done, go back and rest. It's cold, don't catch a chill. The imperial eunuch was so angry, he almost vomited blood, and he flounced back to his residence. That very night, he wrote a secret letter and had someone sneak it out of the city. The letter contained only one sentence. Gu Shao is holding on to his troops and showing signs of rebellion. Please, your majesty, quickly dispatch troops to suppress him. The messenger was his trusted confidant, and he slipped out of the camp under the cover of darkness, running south all the way. After running 30 miles, he was suddenly stopped by a group of soldiers. Torches lit up, and Li the Blockhead rode out slowly on his horse. Oh, running pretty fast, huh? The imperial eunuch's confidant was scared out of his wits, and he knelt down with a thud. Spare my life. Li the Blockhead dismounted and pulled the letter out of his arms, reading it by the light of the torch. The eunuch's confidant was shaking like a leaf. This has nothing to do with me. General, spare my life. Li the Blockhead finished reading the letter, then looked up, his expression a bit strange. This letter, he paused, is well written. The eunuch's confidant was stunned. Li the Blockhead stuffed the letter back into his arms and patted his face. Go on, deliver your letter. The eunuch's confidant thought he misheard. Huh? What huh? Did you not hear me tell you to go? Li the Blockhead remounted his horse. Oh, right. Give a message to his majesty for me. He grinned, revealing a row of white teeth. Tell him that the border is cold, so we've prepared a coat for the great general, so he doesn't have to worry. The eunuch's confidant was completely confused and scrambled away. Li the blockhead watched him disappear into the night, then turned to call the soldiers next to him back. Let's go back to report. General, are we just letting him go? What was written on that letter was... Li the blockhead scoffed. What do you know? Let him deliver it. The sooner he delivers it, the better. The night was deep, and the border winds howled. In the Central Army camp, in the commander's tent, I stood in front of the map, silent. The tent flap opened, and Zhou Hu strode in, clasping his fist in salute. Great General, the man has been released. I didn't turn around. The letter. He took it with him. Oh. Zhou Hu knelt down on one knee. This subordinate is guilty of releasing him without authorization and is willing to be punished. He hesitated for a moment, then knelt forward a step, lowering his voice. Great General, what the brothers mean. Have you considered it? 6. I turned around and looked at him. Zhou Hu felt chills run down his spine, and he didn't care anymore. His eyes were red. Great General, you've served the court faithfully for 10 years. How many scars have you earned? Which one of us brothers hasn't followed you through life and death? But how has the court treated us? Winning battles without rewards is one thing, but to slander you of having disloyal intentions and wanting to seize your power. You heard what that dead eunuch said. In their eyes, we're just lowly, stinky soldiers. We guard the borders for the country, risked our lives to defeat the Xinbei army, but we're just pawns the court can discard at any time. I still didn't speak, staring intently at his face. He raised his head, tears streaming down. General, we're not afraid of death, but we're afraid of dying for nothing. If you hand over your military power and return to the capital, it's a dead end. If you die, what will happen to us brothers? Who will take care of these 400,000 brothers who followed you through life and death? Will those comrades who fought desperately with the Xinbei people and died in battle receive compensation? Can they rest in peace? Deputy General Zhou, who almost roared as he finished speaking. He vented the resentment in his heart. This also represented the soldiers' sentiments. Just then, the tent curtain was lifted. One by one, the generals walked in and knelt on the ground in unison. General, think twice. I looked at them, silent for a long time. All of you get up, I said. No one moved. I sighed and walked to Zhou Hu, reaching out to help him up. I know what you're thinking. Zhou Hu was taken aback. Then you. Rarely having transmigrated into a book, I have to ensure I am safe enough. Faced with their request, I did not immediately agree. Instead, I turned and walked out of the tent. The generals looked at each other and quickly followed. In the camp, it was crowded with people. The soldiers of the Central Army camp had silently gathered in the drill ground, the light of the torches forming a continuous line, illuminating the entire night sky. I stood on the high platform, looking at the familiar faces below. There were old brothers who had followed me through life and death for 10 years, new recruits who had only joined the army for 2 years, wounded soldiers with bandages still wrapped around them, and archers with gunpowder smoke still on their faces. Everyone was looking at me. At this moment, my memories and the original owner's memories were completely merged together, filling me with affection for these soldiers. They in front of me were no longer just NPCs in the book, but living, breathing people. I was silent for a long time before I spoke. Brothers, it's cold tonight, go back to sleep. No one moved. I said it again. Go back to sleep, there are things to do tomorrow. Still no one moved. I suddenly smiled, a smile that made my eyes a little sore. Then I turned around, facing away from everyone, my voice very soft. What virtue and ability do I, Gu Xiao, have to have you as my brothers? Behind me, Deputy General Zhou Hu strode forward, holding something in his hands. Hearing the movement, I turned my head back, stunned. It was a yellow robe. The bright yellow dragon robe shone brightly in the firelight. Zhou Hu knelt on one knee, holding the yellow robe with both hands, his voice trembling. General, it's cold. Let us add a piece of clothing for you. This guy is really too eager for advancement. 7. As soon as the words fell, Everyone on the scene knelt on one knee in unison. There were no shouts of the mountains and the seas, no earth-shattering roars, only the uniform sound of kneeling and pairs of burning eyes. Looking at that dazzling yellow robe, my heart was filled with heat. Transmigrating into a book and not rebelling means there's something wrong with your brain, especially when the one you're rebelling against is that crazy female Emperor Ji Ruyin who treated the original owner like a simp. As a normal general, I must rebel to the very end. Of course, putting on this robe, I know what it means. It means rebellion. It means beheading. It means there's no turning back from now on. But I, who am familiar with the plot, know even better. If I don't wear this yellow robe, then these 400,000 soldiers and their families will sooner or later be sent to the gates of hell one by that female emperor with a hole in her brain and her male favorite. In the original story, after the original owner died, the 400,000 troops on the border were dismissed without compensation, without resettlement. Those soldiers who had gone through life and death with the original owner eventually became refugees, beggars, bandits. Some were caught and beheaded by the government, and some starved to death on the streets. Vice General Zhou, who was falsely accused of treason, and his entire family was executed. Liu Lengzi, who never frowned when killing enemies on the battlefield, was framed for colluding with the enemy and betraying the country, and suffered death by 1,000 cuts. Those vibrant lives, those brothers who had drunk wine, suffered knives, and laughed and cried with the original owner, all became a light sentence in the book. The rebellious party has been completely exterminated. Although I have no experience in rebellion, I will starting today. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. When I opened them again, there was no hesitation in my eyes. I nodded. Zhou Hu and the other generals excitedly helped me put it on. They came before me, knelt on one knee, and shouted, "Long live His Majesty! Long live! Long live!" Upon seeing this, the other soldiers on the scene followed suit. All knelt on one knee and shouted at the top of their lungs, "Long live His Majesty! Long live! Long live! Long live His Majesty! Long live! Long live!" The sound shook the heavens and resounded throughout the border. I raised my hand and pressed down to lower the volume. "Brothers, I have worn this robe. It's quite warm." The next second, I issued a military order. Pass down the order, prepare the troops overnight. And tomorrow morning, I paused, my gaze passing over the light of the torches, and cast towards that prosperous capital in the south. Clear the emperor's side and punish the traitors. The capital city, the imperial palace. The female emperor Ji Ruyin leaned lazily on the soft couch, enjoying the massage of her male favorite Ji Boxiao. Ji Boxiao had a handsome appearance, with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes, red lips and white teeth, and dimples when he smiled. Compared to those rough Xianbei people, he looked more like a person from the Central Plains. While massaging the female emperor's shoulders, he softly spoke sweet words. "Your Majesty, you have lost so much weight these days from working so hard on state affairs. It's all my fault for being useless, unable to share your Majesty's burden." The fellow immediately showed off his tea art skills, his eyes reddening. This subject feels very distressed. Ji Ruyin closed her eyes, very much enjoying this green tea male favorite's flattery. The corners of her mouth curved into a satisfied smile. "Only you know how to talk." Ji Boxiao leaned close to her ear and lowered his voice. "Your Majesty, when will Gu Zhao's military power be taken back? This subject has heard that he is self-important at the border and even dares to detain the envoys sent by your Majesty. This is clearly—" Ji Ruyin opened her eyes and waved her hand. "All right, he wouldn't dare, but you don't understand him." Ji Ruyin sat up. Taking the teacup that Ji Boxiao handed over, she said with a hint of smugness in her voice, "Gu Zhao has liked me since he was a child. For me, he is willing to do anything. Don't even mention letting him hand over his military power. Even if I told him to commit suicide, he wouldn't even frown." A trace of gloom flashed in Ji Boxiao's eyes, but his face was filled with a smile. "Your Majesty is wise." This subject was too worried. Just as they were talking, a eunuch hurried in to report. Your Majesty, the trusted aide of Eunuch Ma who went to the border has returned and said he has important matters to report. Ji Rian lazily raised her chin. Let him in. The eunuch's trusted aide who had fled back crawled in, knelt on the ground, and presented the secret letter with both hands. Ji Rian took the letter, glanced at it, and laughed dismissively. Self-important with his troops? Already showing signs of rebellion. She threw the letter to Ji Boxiao. Take a look. Isn't it laughable? Ji Boxiao took the letter, his expression changed. Your Majesty, this? Ji Rian laughed until she was trembling. That eunuch is also useless. Sending him to deliver an imperial edict, and he's already scared like this. If Gu Shao dared to rebel, the sun would have to rise from the west. Ji Boxiao tentatively said, Your Majesty, what if? There is no what if. Ji Rian interrupted him, her tone certain. I understand him too well. If he dared to rebel, he would have rebelled when I became the female emperor. Why wait until now? She stood up, walked to the window, looked at the prosperous palace outside, and smiled confidently. He's just a dog I keep. He will always obey me obediently. Ji Boxiao lowered his head, a faint smile appearing at the corner of his mouth. Stupid woman. He leaned forward, eagerly saying, Your Majesty is right. However, Gu Shao still holds heavy troops. It's best to take back his military power as soon as possible. This subject has heard that many ministers in the court have been getting very close to him lately. Ji Rian frowned. Is that so? Ji Boxiao nodded. This subject only heard rumors, which may not be true, but Your Majesty still needs to be on guard. Ji Rian pondered for a moment. Then what do you think? Ji Boxiao leaned close to her ear and whispered a few sentences. After listening, Ji Rian's eyes lit up. That's a good idea. Ji Boxiao smiled. Your Majesty is wise. Ji Rian turned around and patted his face. You're so thoughtful. You know how to please me the most. Ji Boxiao lowered his head, the gloom in his eyes deepening. Gu Shao, let's see if you survive this time. 10 days later, the second imperial decree arrived at the border. However, this time, the messenger couldn't even enter the city gate. Vice-General Zhou Hu, leading his men, blocked the city gate and received the imperial decree. This guy, after leading the generals to put the yellow robe on me, had a completely rebellious look. He had no respect for the turbulent Shun dynasty that Ji Rian was making. He tore open the imperial decree on the spot and cheerfully read it aloud to everyone. By the decree of heaven-appointed emperor, it is hereby proclaimed. The border troops are redundant, costing the national treasury. An immediate reduction of 300,000 troops is ordered. All dismissed soldiers will be disbanded on the spot, without resettlement and without compensation. Respect this. But when he finished reading, the entire place was deathly silent. Then, there was a deafening barrage of curses. Reduce the army by 300,000? No resettlement? No compensation. We just finished fighting a war. So many brothers died. And this is what we get. The Empress is crazy. She's really crazy. Zhou Hu crumpled the imperial decree into a ball and threw it heavily on the ground, cursing furiously with red eyes. Brothers, did you hear that? This is what we risked our lives for. To hell with the imperial decree, the tyrannical ruler. Among the crowd, an old soldier with a missing arm staggered forward. He knelt on the ground, tears streaming down his face. I fought alongside the general for 10 years, lost this arm, and was just waiting for the court's compensation to go home and support my family. And now they say they're not giving it. I still have an 80-year-old mother at home and 3 children. What are they going to do? Another young soldier rushed out, his face covered in tears. My father fought the Xinbei with the general and died on the battlefield. My mother won't be able to accept it if she knows the compensation money is gone. How are we supposed to live? More and more soldiers rushed out, cries, curses, and roars all mixed together. Zhou Hu turned around, knelt heavily towards me, standing on the city wall. General, have you seen it all? This is the court we are loyal to. This is the reward for risking our lives. To hell with them. All the soldiers on the scene also knelt down in unison. General, to hell with them. I stood on the city wall, looking at the black mass of people below, looking at those angry, desperate, and sad faces. The army's morale is available. The time has come. Clang, I drew my sword and pointed it toward the capital in the south, mobilizing loudly. Brothers, I promise you dash. I will get this debt back for you. The court is unrighteous. The empress is foolish, favoring treacherous officials. The army will march to cleanse the court. 3 days later, a large flag was erected in the border camp. There were only 3 large characters on the flag. Cleanse the court. Leave 100,000 troops to guard the border. I lead 300,000 elite soldiers, marching south in a grand manner. News reached the capital, causing an uproar in the court. Ji Buxiao was the first to rush into the imperial study, his face pale. Your Majesty, something terrible has happened. Gu Xiao has rebelled. Ji Ruyin was reviewing memorials. Without even looking up, rebelled? Rebelled against what? He raised a banner, saying he wants to eliminate the evil courtiers around you. 300,000 troops are already marching south. Ji Ruyin's hand paused, then continued to review the memorials. Your Majesty, Ji Buxiao was hopping with anxiety. How can you still sit still? Ji Ruyin put down her brush, raised her head, with a hint of impatience on her face. What are you panicking about? He's just throwing a tantrum, not really rebelling. Ji Buxiao was stunned. Throwing a tantrum? Ji Ruyin stood up, walked to the window, and said with certainty, You don't understand. I know him too well. He's always had this temper since he was a child. Always makes a scene when things don't go his way. Before, when I didn't give him a good look, he knelt outside the palace gates for 3 days and 3 nights. Later, I gave him a piece of pastry, and he obediently went back. She turned around, looked at Ji Buxiao, and a confident smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. It's the same this time. You wait. I'll write a letter, scold him, and he'll immediately obediently roll back and kneel before me to beg for forgiveness. Ji Buxiao opened his mouth, not knowing what to say. Ji Ruyin really sat down, picked up a brush, and wrote a letter, and handed it to a eunuch. Send this to Gu Xiao with the utmost urgency. The eunuch took the letter, hesitated, and said, Your Majesty, what if? There is no what if. Ji Ruyin waved her hand. Go. The eunuch had no choice but to retreat. Ji Buxiao hesitated. Your Majesty. All right. Ji Ruyin interrupted him, waving her hand impatiently. Stop being suspicious all day long, seeing everyone as a rebel. I understand Gu Xiao 100 times better than you do. If he dares to rebel, the sun will have to rise from the west. She walked back to the soft couch, lay down, and beckoned to Ji Buxiao. Come over here and continue to massage my shoulders. Ji Buxiao had no choice but to go over. But this time his hands were trembling slightly. Could this foolish empress really scold away 300,000 troops with just a few words? At the same time, my 300,000 troops advanced with unstoppable momentum. When I led the army to the first city, the defending general saw the banner of Eliminate the Evil Courtiers, and without saying a word, directly opened the city gates and came out to greet me personally. General, the defending general was a man in his 40s, and he knelt down upon seeing me. His eyes were red, and he tearfully recounted his hatred. You've finally come. That male concubine of the emperor, Ji Buxiao, has made us all suffer. My younger brother worked in the Ministry of Revenue, and just because he said military pay cannot be deducted, he was branded as a corrupt official and his entire family was executed. I helped him up. I will avenge your brother for this debt. The second city, the city gates were tightly closed. The defending general was a confidant of the male, concubine Ji Buxiao, standing on the city wall. He arrogantly cursed at our army. Gu Xiao, you traitor! His Majesty has already issued an edict to exterminate your 9 generations. If you know what's good for you, surrender quickly, and this general might spare you." I raised my head and glanced at him coldly. Then, a commotion suddenly erupted on the city wall. The defending general, who was still arrogant just now, turned his head and found that his deputy was standing behind him with a knife, his face expressionless. What are you doing?" Without saying a word, the deputy chopped off his head with one slash. Then he raised the defending general's head and shouted to the city below, "General, this humble officer respectfully welcomes the king's army." The city gates opened wide. The third city, the people prepared food and drink to welcome us, crowding the streets. The fourth city, the defending soldiers directly tied up their commanding officer and surrendered. The fifth, the sixth, I led the army south, encountering almost no resistance. Everywhere I went, I saw the numb faces of the people, heard their suppressed cries. Taxes had tripled. Forced labor went on day and night. The men of the families were dragged off to build palaces, the women conscripted to serve the new nobles. The male concubine Ji Boxiao's relatives, fellow villagers, and cronies all became high officials, each one frantically squeezing the people dry. Anyone who dared to say no was immediately labeled a rebel, and their entire family was executed. In just a few months, some of the nobles in the capital were demoted, some beheaded, some retired to their hometowns, and some shut themselves away. The rest were all flatterers and sycophants. In the court, no one dared to speak the truth anymore. Ji Rian lay on her soft couch every day, listening to Ji Boxiao read good news. "Your Majesty, the floods in the south have been resolved. This minister's uncle donated 100,000 taels of silver for disaster relief. Your Majesty, the Xianbei in the north have sued for peace and promised to offer tribute every year. Your Majesty, the Ministry of Revenue says this year's tax revenue has doubled, all thanks to Your Majesty's sagacity." Ji Ruyin was overjoyed and felt even more brilliant and martial. As for the people's lives and the bloody tears behind those resolved disasters, peace-seeking Xianbei and doubled taxes, she knew nothing and didn't want to know anything. Until one day, a eunuch rushed in, tumbling and crawling. Your Majesty, something terrible has happened. Gu Zhao's army has reached the city walls." Ji Ruyin was eating grapes and was stunned when she heard this. Reach the city walls? Wasn't he at the border? The eunuch stamped his feet anxiously. "Your Majesty, this minister reported a month ago, but you said he was just being temperamental and ignored him." Ji Ruyin stood up abruptly, her face finally changing. She rushed out and climbed onto the city gate tower. Outside the city, the black mass of troops stretched as far as the eye could see. 300,000 elite soldiers, lined up neatly, banners obscuring the sun. On the leading banner, the three large characters, "Cleanse the court," fluttered in the wind. Under the banner, I sat on my horse, majestic and awe-inspiring. Wearing the familiar armor of the Empress, my expression was indifferent. Ji Rian recognized me, and the panic in her heart was instantly replaced by anger. She rushed to the edge of the city wall, put her hands on her hips, and shouted down, "Gu Zhao, haven't you caused enough trouble?" I raised my head and looked at her from afar. However, I'm no longer the original owner, but a sane general. At this moment, I am looking at this brain-dead, bizarre empress with a playful expression. Ji Ruyin felt uneasy under my gaze, but she couldn't lose her momentum. "I order you to withdraw your troops immediately. Kneel down and apologize to me. Surrender your military power. Resign from all your positions. Then abolish your martial arts yourself. Otherwise," she paused, gritting her teeth, "otherwise I will never talk to you again. Don't even think about getting me to agree to take you as my imperial husband, and I will never fall in love with you." As the words fell, the scene fell into an eerie silence. Someone couldn't help but laugh. The next moment, more and more people laughed. First, it was a low chuckle, then it grew louder and louder, finally turning into a burst of hearty laughter. Empress Ji Ruyin was stunned. She didn't understand. What were these people laughing at? "Oh, underline, ha ha, sorry." I haven't received professional training. How could I hold back from such a hilarious scene? I laughed louder than anyone else, laughing until tears almost came out. The original owner risked life and limb, shed blood and sweat. For this sentence, take you as my imperial husband. For this sentence, fall in love with you, only to end up dying without a complete body. How ridiculous! Yi Ruyan. I stopped laughing, my voice terrifyingly calm. Listen carefully. Ji Ruyan subconsciously took a step back. First, your position as imperial consort. Whoever wants it can have it. I don't care for it. Second, how much is your so-called love worth? Even if you sold it to those male concubines, they wouldn't necessarily want it. Third, I paused, a mocking smile playing on my lips. Do you think I'm still that fool who knelt outside your palace gates, only seeking a single smile from you? The messengers shouted one after another, and the vanguard soldiers followed suit. Ji Ruyan soon heard it. Her face turned deathly pale. Now, for the first time, she realized she didn't recognize this person at all. Ji Ruyan was both afraid and angry, feeling like everything was spiraling out of control. She was still shouting towards me, trying to awaken the original host's simping self. But I'm not the original host. As expected of a dog-blooded, female-oriented novel, I've already been forced into wearing the yellow robe by my subordinates, and even led an army of 300,000 to the outskirts of the capital. This brain-damaged female emperor actually still angrily believes it's just a tantrum, wanting to use angry female-oriented nuclear bombs like I'll never pay attention to you again, don't even think about me forgiving you, and I'll never love you in this lifetime to make me retreat. Does she really think rebellion is child's play? Look at Vice General Zhou and the others, each with a ferocious expression as they shout and kill, wishing they could storm the palace immediately. They want to advance so badly, risking their heads to rebel with me. If it were the original host, that love-brain simp, maybe he really would retreat his army of 300,000 because Ji Ruyan was angry and said those things, and go back to being a simp. But I'm a normal great general. No, I'm a normal emperor now. I can't be bothered to listen to Ji Ruyan's angry, brainless remarks. They're too polluting to my ears. To reduce casualties among my soldiers, I arranged for people to shoot a large number of surrender notices into the city. At the same time, I had Vice General Zhou lead men to yell and challenge the city wall defenders to surrender, promising they wouldn't be held accountable. The defenders' minds wavered. News from outside the city spread back inside, and the entire capital was thrown into chaos. Those officials who had risen to power through the male concubine Ji Buxiao were scared out of their wits. Some were packing their gold, silver, and valuables, preparing to run, while others were secretly sending people out of the city to contact Gu Xiao, and some simply hid at home, feigning illness. In the court, Ji Ruyan sat on the dragon throne, looking at the hall below, which was half empty, her face ashen. "Where are the people?" she asked. The eunuch trembled. "Your Majesty, Lord Li said he's ill. Lord Zhang has family matters," Lord Wang said. "Enough." Ji Ruyan slammed her hand on the armrest. "Summon Ji Buxiao." Ji Buxiao entered from outside the hall, his face also not looking good. Ji Ruyan looked at him with a wronged expression. "Ji Buxiao, you're all I have left. Those damned ministers are all useless." Ji Buxiao also wanted to run, but he felt unwilling. He had been undercover in the Great Xia dynasty for many years, but had failed to help the Xianbei people enter the Central Plains. Even if he escaped back to Xianbei, he wouldn't be able to become the new Chanyu of the Xianbei. He had to kill Gu Xiao, the enemy who had defeated the Xianbei, and at the same time, capture the female emperor and take her to the grasslands. Ji Buxiao hardened his heart, gritted his teeth, and said, "Your Majesty, your subject is willing to lead troops in a battle and personally capture this rebel." Ji Ruyan's eyes lit up. "Can you do it?" Ji Buxiao puffed out his chest. "Your subject is willing to sign a military pledge. If I fail to capture and kill Gu Xiao, I will offer my head as payment." Ji Ruyan was overjoyed and immediately issued a decree, appointing Ji Buoxiao as the Grand Marshal of the suppressing rebellion army to lead the imperial guards of the capital and go out of the city to meet the enemy. Ji Buoxiao accepted the decree and went to the military camp in high spirits. 13. Then, Ji Buoxiao was dumbfounded. The imperial guard camp was empty. Not even 30,000 men could be mustered, let alone 300,000. Ji Buoxiao grabbed a deputy general and asked, "Where are the people?" The deputy general said expressionlessly, "Reporting, sir, they ran away." Ran away? Yes. Hearing that they were going to fight General Gu, many people ran away. Some even went to join General Gu. Ji Buoxiao was trembling with anger and stormed into the Imperial Guard's tent. He roared at the remaining generals, "Listen to me. Gather everyone immediately and go out of the city to fight. Anyone who dares to run away will be executed without mercy." The generals lowered their heads and said nothing. Ji Buoxiao was even more furious and rushed forward, lashing out at the deputy city guard with a whip. "Did you hear me? I, the Grand Marshal, order you to go out of the city." The vice general, struck by the whip, raised his head, his eyes icy. Ji Buoxiao felt a chill run down his spine from his gaze and took a step back. "You, what do you want?" The vice general didn't speak, slowly standing up. Then, he grinned. The smile made Ji Buoxiao's hair stand on end. "Lord Ji," the vice general said slowly, "do you know why the brothers all ran away?" Ji Buoxiao's lips trembled. Why? The vice general walked up to him, looking down at him with disdain. "Because the brothers, they've all been waiting for this day." As soon as the words fell, a group of people suddenly rushed in from outside the tent. Ji Buoxiao suddenly turned his head and saw the soldiers he had just whipped surrounding him, each one expressionless. Are you trying to rebel?" Ji Buoxiao's voice changed. "I am the Grand Marshal appointed by His Majesty to suppress the rebellion. Do you dare touch me?" However, no one paid any attention to him. The vice general waved his hand. "Tie him up." Ji Buoxiao was so frightened that he turned to run, but was grabbed by the guards outside the door. No matter how hard he struggled and cursed, he was picked up like a chick and tied up securely. The vice general walked up to him and patted his face playfully. "Lord Ji, don't worry. In a moment, General Gu will come to deal with you personally." At the city gate, the soldiers guarding the city gate competed to open it. The vice general, leading the people, escorted Ji Buoxiao and knelt on both sides of the city gate. I rode in slowly on a tall horse, entering the city. The vice general kowtowed heavily. "Your humble subordinate respectfully welcomes the great general." I dismounted and helped him up. "You've worked hard." The vice general's eyes turned red, and he choked up, "Your humble subordinate has waited too long for this day." I patted him on the shoulder and looked at Ji Buoxiao, who was tied up like a dumpling. Ji Buoxiao was trembling all over at this moment, his teeth chattering. Even at this point, he was still using the Empress to threaten me, a stubborn dead duck. Gu Xiao, do you dare touch me? I am Her Majesty's most beloved. If you dare to touch me, Her Majesty will not let you off." I laughed after hearing this. "Won't let me off?" I squatted down, looking at Ji Buoxiao's pale face. "Ji Buoxiao, do you know why I haven't killed you all this time?" Ji Buoxiao was stunned after hearing this. Instantly, he was frightened like a trembling sieve. He cursed that idiot Ji Ruyan in his heart. I moved closer to him and lowered my voice. "Because I want that foolish ruler, the idiot you hoodwinked, to see how you beg for life but cannot get it, beg for death but cannot find it." Ji Buoxiao's pupils shrank sharply. He was so frightened that he peed himself. From the initial arrogance and scolding to the current collapse into tears and begging for mercy. I stood up, no longer looking at him, and rode my horse towards the palace. 14. The palace gates were wide open. I led my men, riding tall horses. We arrived unimpeded in front of the Hall of Golden Chimes. The doors of the hall were wide open, and the inside was brightly lit. Ji Ruyan was wearing a Mianfu, Emperor's robe, and Agun Guanyin, Emperor's crown, sitting upright on the dragon throne. She was trying her best to maintain her majesty, but her slightly trembling hands betrayed her. I did not dismount. Just like that, wearing armor, carrying my sword, riding my horse. I entered the hall, looking down on this brain-dead female emperor. Gu Xiao, Ji Rian spoke, her voice trying to remain steady. You have one. I looked at her mockingly, too lazy to waste words with her. Ji Rian stood up, walked down the steps, and walked towards me step by step. I admit, I misjudged you. She stood in front of me, looking up at me. I didn't expect that you would actually dare to rebel. I still didn't speak, watching her little clown performance. Ji Ruyan bit her lip, suddenly changing her expression. Her eyes reddened, her voice with a hint of grievance. Gu Xiao, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have listened to slanderous words. I shouldn't have treated you that way. But I was also deceived. It was all that Ji Bo Xiao. He bewitched me. Enough. I directly interrupted her. As expected of the female lead of a dog-blooded romance novel, she shirks responsibility at the first sign of trouble. Ji Rian was stunned. A trace of panic flashed in her eyes, but she quickly forced a smile. Gu Xiao, do you remember when we were little? You said back then that you would protect me for the rest of your life. You also said that as long as I was willing, you would do anything for me. I looked at her with disdain and suddenly found it amusing. My laughter made Ji Ruyan feel uneasy. Ji Ruyan, I said slowly, word by word. Do you know that the original Gu Xiao is already dead? Ji Ruyan was stunned. What? What do you mean? I didn't explain, just looked at her, my gaze as calm as if I were looking at a dead person. Ji Ruyan panicked. She tried to grab my sleeve, but was kicked over by one of my personal guards. Gu Xiao, I promise you, as long as you release Ji Bo Xiao, I will take you as my imperial consort. In the future, this world, you and I will share it. You could do whatever you want. I will never keep male concubines again. I will only dote on you. What the hell? This empress is already in dire straits, and she still cares so much about that male favorite, Ji Bo Xiao. I feel deeply saddened for the original owner, that love-struck simp. Oh well, I transmigrated into this book and obtained his status and power, especially his literary and martial talents, and his high prestige in the army. Let me avenge this injustice for this poor sucker. I turned around decisively and walked out of the hall. Ji Ruyan shouted from behind. Gu Xiao, what exactly do you want? I didn't stop my horse and didn't look back. Take her out and let her see with her own eyes what happens to her precious darling. Several soldiers stepped forward, grabbed Ji Ruyan, and dragged her out. Ji Ruyan struggled desperately, kicking and biting. Let go of me, you lowly, stinking soldiers. Who dares to touch me? I'll exterminate your entire family. However, no matter how she shouted or even cursed like a shrew, no one paid her any attention. Outside the Meridian Gate, a high platform had been erected. On the high platform, Ji Bo Xiao was tied to a pillar, stripped naked. Below the platform, the common people and soldiers were crowded. Ji Ruyan was escorted to the front of the platform, and her pupils shrank when she saw this scene. What? What are you going to do? I stood on the high platform, looked down at her, and coldly uttered two words. Lingqi, death by 1,000 cuts. Ji Ruyan's vision went black when she heard this, and she almost fainted. She struggled desperately, wanting to rush up, but was held down by the soldiers. Gu Xiao, you're crazy. He's my man. If you dare to touch him, what can you do? Gu Xiao interrupted her, smiling mockingly. Exterminate my entire family? Ji Ruyan opened her mouth, unable to speak. On the high platform, the execution began. With the first cut, Ji Bo Xiao let out a pig-like scream. Yeah. Ji Ruyan shuddered and closed her eyes. Open your eyes. My voice came. Watch carefully. Ji Ruyan closed her eyes tightly, but tears couldn't stop flowing. You said he's been messing around with you for so long, Gu Xiao said slowly. How come he didn't leave you with an illegitimate child? Yurianis Bodhi Stephenet. Look at how great Lao AI was. He even had 2 illegitimate sons. I tutted twice jokingly. Your taste is really bad. Ji Ruyan suddenly opened her eyes, glaring at me, her eyes filled with hatred. Ji Buxiao's screams grew weaker and weaker, and finally disappeared completely. The entire execution process lasted 3 hours. Ji Ruyan was forced to watch for 3 hours, vomited 5 times, fainted 3 times, and was splashed awake twice. When everything was over, she collapsed on the ground, her eyes empty, her whole body shaking. I walked up to her, squatted down, and sneered. See clearly? Ji Ruyan raised her head, her lips trembling. What exactly do you want? I looked at her and smiled. I'll give you a gift. I waved my hand, and several soldiers stepped forward. They lifted Ji Ruyan up and dragged her towards the direction of the barracks. Ji Ruyan struggled desperately. What are you doing? Where are you taking me? My voice came from behind. Those soldiers you call rude soldiers are all lined up and waiting. Ji Ruyan's pupils shrank sharply, and she finally understood what I meant. She struggled frantically, screamed, cursed. Gu Shao, you will die a horrible death. You will be punished. I curse you. I curse you to have no descendants. The voice grew fainter and fainter, finally disappearing into the night. General Yuan could do it. Why can't I? I stood there, looking at the starry sky, and exhaled a long breath. Deputy General Zhou, who walked to my side and said in a low voice, Your Majesty, next. I turned around and looked at him. What majesty? Zhou, who was stunned, and then smiled. This guy seems reckless, but he is actually meticulous. He naturally understood that there was a tradition of declining 3 times before accepting the throne. He bowed and cupped his fist. This subordinate misspoke next. What should we do? I looked at the brightly lit palace, and a smile appeared on the corner of my mouth. Wait. Wait for what? Wait for them to come begging me. 3 days later, the news of Ji Buxiao's being executed by slow, slicing spread throughout the capital, and the entire city rejoiced. Those officials and civilians who had been persecuted by him took to the streets one after another, setting off firecrackers, posting spring festival couplets, and it was more lively than the New Year. In the palace, Ji Ruyan's whereabouts were unknown. In the court, there was no leader. Several old ministers gathered together and discussed for 3 days and 3 nights, finally reaching an agreement. Early in the morning of the 4th day, led by the 3 dynasty elder Zhang, along with civil and military officials, they marched in a mighty manner to the gate of the military camp. I was looking at a map in the command tent. Deputy General Zhou, who came in to report, Your Majesty, Elder Zhang and the others have arrived. I didn't even lift my head. What are they doing here? Zhou, who suppressed a laugh. They said they're here to beg you to ascend the throne. Only then did I raise my head and frown. Ascend to what throne? Tell them to go back. Zhou, who went out to deliver the message, and Elder Zhang and the others looked at each other in dismay, and finally had to go back. When he came back to report, he couldn't help but laugh. This guy's acting skills are a bit lacking. The next day, they came again. This time, there were even more people. Not only were there civil officials, but also military generals, as well as gentry and celebrities from the capital, all kneeling in a dark mass. Elder Zhang knelt in the front, tears streaming down his face. Great General, a country cannot be without a ruler for a day. You have quelled rebellions, defeated foreign enemies, and killed treacherous officials. Your merits are unparalleled, and your virtue matches heaven and earth. We kneel and beg you to ascend the throne to calm the people's hearts. The people behind echoed in unison. Please, Great General, ascend the throne. I came out of the tent, looked at the kneeling crowd, and frowned even tighter. I said, This is to clear the emperor's surroundings of evil. How can I ascend the throne? Go back. Elder Zhang refused to get up. If the Great General does not agree, this old minister will kneel here until he dies. I ignored him and turned to go back to the tent. On the 3rd day, there were even more people, not only from the capital, but also officials, gentry, and civilians from surrounding prefectures and counties had rushed over. A dark mass of hundreds of thousands of people knelt, stretching from the gate of the military camp all the way to 10 miles away. Elder Zhang knelt in the front, having knelt for 3 days and 3 nights, his lips chapped and his voice hoarse. Look at his acting skills, Deputy General Zhou, who was also ashamed. At this moment, Elder Zhang, whose face was pale and haggard, still refused to get up. Great General, if you don't ascend the throne, the world will fall into chaos. The Xianbei in the north are eyeing us covetously. The Dongxiang in the northwest are ready to make trouble. Bandits rise everywhere within the country, and the people live in misery. Only by you ascending the throne can you stabilize the world and save the people from fire and water. Tens of thousands of people behind them shouted in unison. We beg the great general to ascend the throne. Save the people from fire and water. I came out of the tent, looked at the scene before me, and tried my best to maintain a solemn expression. Vice General Zhou, who approached and whispered, Your Majesty, isn't that enough? I glared at him. Zhou Hu chuckled and took a few steps back. He suddenly knelt down and shouted loudly, Your Majesty, if you don't ascend the throne, this humble servant will die here. After speaking, he drew his blade and placed it against his neck. I was stunned for a moment. What are you doing? Huh? This wasn't in the script we rehearsed beforehand. Is Zhou Hu channeling his inner drama queen, getting too caught up in the act? The burly man with a full beard looked like a weeping, wronged woman, lamenting sorrowfully. This humble servant has followed you through life and death for 10 years, and I've been waiting for this day. If you don't agree, what's the point of me living? I might as well die. I was amused and angered by him. Are you threatening me? Zhou Hu stuck his neck out. This humble servant wouldn't dare. This humble servant only wants His Majesty to know that the people of the world are waiting for you. But once he finished speaking, how could the clever old men like Zhang Ge not understand? They also followed suit, shouting and even crying out in grief. Your Majesty, the people of the world are waiting for you. Tens of thousands of people shouted in unison, their voices shaking the heavens. I tried to restrain my excited mood, afraid that the historians would see the expression of secret joy on my face. At this moment, I just stood there, watching the scene before me, looking at those expectant eyes, looking at those excited faces. Time to demonstrate an actor's skill. After a long while, I sighed. I pointed to Vice General Zhou and the others who were holding swords to their necks. Alas, you really give me no choice. I shook my head, my tone containing a hint of helplessness. You've really done me in. Zhou Hu's eyes lit up, and he dropped his sword. He slid forward with lightning speed and prostrated himself heavily, shouting. He wanted to advance in the world so badly. Long live the Emperor! Long live! 10,000 years. Tens of thousands of people knelt down in unison. Long live the Emperor! Long live! 10,000 years. Long live the Emperor! Long live 10,000 years. I looked at them and reluctantly accepted. Since you insist that I take this position, then I will. Then I paused, my gaze passing over the crowd and towards the vast and deep distant sky. But I'll say this up front. Being this emperor won't be easy. What I want to do is not to maintain the status quo, but to be an emperor who expands the territory. Tens of thousands of people were fired up and shouted in unison. Long live! 10,000 years. Half a month later, I officially ascended the throne. The country was named Great Han, and the era was named Hongwu. On the day of the enthronement ceremony, the sun was shining brightly, and all the people celebrated. I wore a dragon robe, stood on the high altar, and received the congratulations of hundreds of officials. Those soldiers who followed me through life and death were promoted and ennobled, bringing glory to their ancestors. And those corrupt officials who had oppressed the people and enriched themselves were searched, executed, and their properties confiscated. When the news spread, the world was excited. The people told each other the news. The new emperor is a good emperor. We have hope. Late at night, in the imperial study, I stood alone in front of the map, looking at the various places marked on it. To the north were the Xianbei, invading every year, killing my people, plundering our grain. To the west were the Dongxiang, eyeing us covetously, frequently raiding our borders. To the south was Baiwei, not yet subdued. To the east was the Great Sea, said to be plagued by pirates harassing the coast. I looked at it for a while, then picked up a brush and drew a circle on the map. The eunuch led a general in. Deputy General Zhou. Oh, now he's the Duke of Jinghua. He bowed and reported, Your Majesty, the nation's armies are being reorganized in an orderly manner. I believe that in less than half a year, we will be able to go to war again. I nodded after listening and then gave him some key instructions. After speaking, I couldn't help but ask, How was that Ji Rian doing? Zhou was taken aback. Then he grinned and bowed again, clasping his fist. Very well. The brothers are all grateful to your majesty and vow to follow your majesty to the death. I glanced at him, but didn't say anything. Zhou grinned and withdrew. Outside the window, the moonlight was like water. The new great Han Empire was sleeping under the moonlight. And I am the master of this empire. From today onwards, he will make this world remember a name. The great Han Hongwu Emperor, Gu Shao. Wherever the sun and moon shine, wherever rivers flow, shall be Han territory. I will ensure that future generations will no longer be bullied by foreign tribes. I will make everyone in the world speak Han language, write Han characters, and wear Han clothing. I will let this world know what is called the Celestial Empire. 18 months later, the great Han Iron Cavalry broke through the Xianbei royal court. The Xianbei Chanyu was captured alive and presented as a prisoner in the imperial ancestral temple. 2.5 years later, the Dongxiang surrendered, offering millions of cattle and sheep and paying tribute as vassals. 3 years later, Baiwei submitted. Counties and prefectures were established, officials were sent, and the people were educated. 5 years later, the great Han Navy crossed the sea eastwards, suppressing the pirates, and the king of Wa personally came to court, kneeling outside the Meridian Gate, requesting investiture. 10 years later, the territory of the great Han had doubled in size. The 4 seas submitted, and all nations came to pay tribute. At the grand court ceremony of 10,000 nations that year, I sat on the dragon throne, looking at the densely packed envoys from various countries kneeling below, and suddenly remembered 10 years ago when I stood on the border city wall, watching those soldiers fighting bloody battles. I raised my wine cup and stood up. The whole audience fell silent. I looked into the distance, my voice calm. This cup I offer to the brothers who followed me in life and death. Then, after a pause, I spilled the wine on the ground. Without them, there would be no me today. The whole audience was solemn. Zhou stood aside, his eyes red, and knelt heavily. Long live the emperor! Long live the emperor! Long live, long live, long live! Everyone knelt down in unison. Long live the emperor! Long live the emperor! Long live, long live, long live! I looked at them and suddenly smiled. Turning around, I faced the north, that once bitterly cold and impoverished place. Now it was already the territory of the great Han, with herds of cattle and sheep, and the people living in peace. Wherever the sun and moon shine, wherever rivers flow, shall be Han territory. I softly recited the word from that year, and then a smile appeared on the corner of my mouth. I kept my word.